Hey, what the fuck is up, y'all? It's Baron, and I'm making it a goal to review every mainline Halo game starting with Halo Combat Evolved for the original Xbox. Released in 2001 and developed by Bungie, the company known before Halo for, whatever the fuck these are, there's not really much to talk about beforehand, so let's just dive right in. And right before we start, I just want to mention I'll be playing on the Master Chief Collection on PC for ease of use, and I'll also be playing on Heroic difficulty. But let's get right into it. Let's just get started with the story. I'm not going to spend much time on the story because I don't really want to spoil the whole thing, but it's pretty generic for a sci-fi story. Not bland necessarily, but very run-of-the-mill. I think it works well though, and the game has its fair share of funny lines whether it's intentional or not.
While the Covenant had us locked up in here, I overheard the guards talking about this ring world. They call it Halo.
I don't know what to do.
How much firepower would you need to crack one of the engine shields?
Not much. A well-placed grenade, perhaps, but why? Okay, I'm coming with you.
But overall, the story works well, and it complements the gameplay pretty well. I don't really have much else to say about the story, but I'll talk about the campaign a little later. Let's talk about the graphics and the game's art style. The graphics are beautiful in this game, very simplistic and obviously dated, but they do a great job at accentuating the stuff in the game that really matters. Enemies stand out, weapons look amazing, everything looks just as it should. Nothing looks out of place. Now, 10 years after the release of the original game, 343 Industries released a revamped graphical upgrade to Halo Combat Evolved called Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. I think I have a moral obligation to tell you all that it looks dog shit. Everything just looks so overdone and tacky, all the simplicity of the original graphic design is gone. Enemies blend in with the environment more, the UI is somehow harder to see, and everything just looks shit. Luckily here on the Master Chief Collection you can switch it on and off in an instant, which is good because I kept that shit off for like 95% of my playthrough. The art style in Combat Evolved is always beautiful though, perfectly designed. Every level has a distinct style and looks beautiful, even though the graphics are dated. Some of the areas you explore are just so beautiful and really make the game stand out. Of course it's butchered either way if you play on the anniversary graphics, but the standard graphics make the art style and design really pop. Let's talk about the combat here in Halo Combat Evolved. I just want to mention right now because I think it's interesting that this is the first FPS ever to use the right stick as the camera function exclusively, which I think is pretty cool. It has nothing to really do with the review though, so I don't really know why I mentioned it. Overall, the combat is pretty basic, but not boring. Every weapon has its use and feels distinct from the next. The shotgun, assault rifle, magnum, everything fits great. You can also use alien weapons and vehicles on top of the human ones, which is pretty fucking dope. It's also arcadey in a sense, because the combat is so simplistic. That might also be because there's power-ups you can find along the campaign though, but I don't know. Overall, the combat is really fun. Basic, but fun. My only real complaint with the combat is the healing system. So if you've never played Halo, basically you have a shield that regenerates when you're out of combat. Think of a more visualized version of how it is in Call of Duty. But only in Combat Evolved do you have a health bar after the shield that does not regenerate until you find a medkit. Good idea on paper, but there were several times throughout the campaign where I just get fucked and run around with no health in gunfights, with only armor to protect me. This would later be changed in other Halo games as to where health wasn't really a thing, which I think is for the better. I'm just going to quickly talk about the music. It's made by a guy named Marty O'Donnell. I can't play the music, but if you've heard any music in Halo, it's probably Marty's work. All the music fits well in the missions, and some of the tracks are actually heat as fuck. But anyways, onto the actual campaign and the missions within it. Now, I personally love Halo 1's campaign for like the first half. I'll go through the whole mission list. Pillar of Autumn? Fuck yeah. Halo? Fuck yeah. Truth and Reconciliation? Fuck yeah. Silent Cartographer? Fuck yeah. Assault on the Control Room? Kinda drags near the end, but it's a moderate fuck yeah. But then 343 Guilty Spark, it's okay, you know, introduces the Flood, and that's pretty cool. And then the Library, 2 Betrayals, Keys, yeah, these are all missions from earlier in the game. The final level, the Maw, does this too, but it's honestly so different from the mission it's based off of that it's basically a different level. But the main problem with the latter half of this game's campaign is just how it repeats levels. Keys is just Truth and Reconciliation reused with some new areas, and I swear to God, 2 Betrayals is literally just Assault on the Control Room backwards. And I'm not even going to get into the library, which isn't necessarily copied off of another mission, but it's certainly dog shit. Now, returning back to these areas makes sense story-wise, but that definitely doesn't make it any more interesting. It's actually so fucking boring, especially considering a lot of these levels are very repetitive. Like, see this room here on Assaults on the Control Room? I hope you like it, because you fight in this exact same room, copied, like literally 10 fucking times throughout the mission. And then you have to replay these areas again on 2 Betrayals. And they have repetitive areas like this all over the fucking game. Like the library, as mentioned before. This shit is ridiculous. Literally like 45 minutes of just climbing a building shooting Flood. Fucking lame. Now, out of the 10 missions in the campaign, there's probably like 5 of them I think are good. Some of them are really good, but a lot of the good missions are squandered by being repeated later in the campaign. It kind of makes them lose their luster. It feels like they had a good grip on what they wanted Halo to be, but they had to shit out the last half of the game before they could fully complete their vision. It's just so close, but so far. Luckily, Bungie was able to refine their vision in later Halo games. Like, if I wanted a trip down memory lane on Halo Combat Evolved, I'd probably play like, Pillar of Autumn, Halo, Truth and Reconciliation, maybe the Maw, Assault on the Control Room, and then I'd just stop, after like halfway through, and the final level, like, it really drags. It's really fucking boring. Luckily, you can play through the entire campaign in 2-player co-op, which is something that makes the whole experience a lot better, helps you share the suffering, and it's something that was also later refined in later Halo games. I swear my bullets are like...
Watch out!
Oh yeah, watch this.
What?
We seen ya? What we seen ya? Uh-oh.
Retard.
But one more thing I have to mention about the campaign that I fucking hate is the checkpoints. Usually you get checkpoints right after a fight or a cutscene or whatever, but you can skip checkpoints by complete accident, forcing you to go back an encounter or two if you die and the cutscene doesn't trigger. Wait, what the fuck? And the checkpoint doesn't trigger. Normally I would let this slide, but this shit happens literally all the time. I can't even count the amount of times where I finished an encounter, died, and had to start the whole encounter over. But as I was replaying the encounter, I got a checkpoint that I didn't get before. One notable time was on the Maw, where I was fighting for my fucking life, blowing up these vents, and I died when I finished it. But when I got sent back to the beginning of the encounter, I got a checkpoint halfway through that I didn't get before. Checkpoints are genuinely so broken that you can sequence break them on complete accident. Otherwise, I think the campaign is decent, besides this and the repetition in the last half of the game. Now, lastly, I just wanted to talk quick about the multiplayer of this game. Halo Combat Evolved's multiplayer is pretty basic, consisting of modes like Team Deathmatch and Capture the Flag, but this mode is complete mania. Arena-like maps, explosions, insanely broken weapons. This multiplayer is fucking crazy, and I love it. It's completely kill or be killed, and while I understand why someone might not like Combat Evolved's multiplayer mode, it's one of my favorite in the series just for its simplicity and chaos. You basically jump right in and you already know what to do. Classic FPS at its finest. There's not much else to talk about with the multiplayer as it's fairly cut and dry, but it's a blast. But yeah, that's basically it for Halo Combat Evolved. A classic shooter with amazing controls and gameplay, bogged down a good bit by its lackluster second half of a campaign. Overall, still a good experience and I highly recommend. B tier.